Hello everyone, this is Professor Gunt. I am recording this video for my Math 451 students in order to give you an idea of how to use the information that I am sending to you via email that is supposed to supplement the learning that you're doing in order to help you out with your questions in IntelliPath. So the first thing I want to do here is sort of demystify how to go through the emails that I send you so that you can find the information that you need to find so that you can do the problems that you need to do. So how I'm going to start this off is, of course, I'm in one of my courses now, and you should have received an email from me if you're watching this video at this point. Depending upon what session we're in, you may have received 1 or 2 emails, or you may have received all 5. Okay, but I kind of want to guide you through this process here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to my email, because this is where you should be able to see it. And if you notice here, I have these things highlighted, and where this came from is, let's say if I do Unit 1 Learning Materials and Resources, you can kind of see I've already searched for that. You see that I have this come up, okay? And so if you click on it, you'll see that I have the email here with the zip file, and the verbiage is basically saying, hey, this is Unit 1 stuff. This is supposed to help you. Now, with that being said, of course, the first thing that you want to do is download this zip file, okay? So, of course, I'm going to click on it and download it. Here, let me get this in the right window. So this is the window that came up for me. I'm just going to save the file, and, of course, it's going to my downloads folder here. If you have a different type of computer, if you don't have a Mac, then it's going to look a little different, but at the end of the day, it's going to be downloaded, okay? So once you click on this, then here, what happened in my case was that I actually had the file, and then it automatically unzipped itself, okay? So for most of you, you will either have to go here to the zip file and either double click on it for it to unzip itself, or you may have to click on it, and then there's some button up here asking you to extract the files, okay? So either way, you should be able to get into those files, and this is what you are going to see, okay? All right, sorry for that short pause. I had to kind of resize everything because I think I clicked on something wrong. But here you see that I have a list of files here. And so these files are here to help you out. Now, I've named these files as best as I can here so that you kind of know what's in them. I'm going to kind of scroll up on this email here and notice that you have one file named Unit 1 Presentation Slides. So these are the actual presentations that I use to do the live chats, as well as the pre-recorded YouTube videos that you get from me as well, okay? And of course, those pre-recorded YouTube videos, let's see here, and you will actually see them, yeah. So here's the link for those, okay? And of course, I'm going to actually do an example here of this particular thing, but I'm going to show it to you in IntelliPath so you kind of see how it works. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that in this email, you have a description of all these files that you're seeing here, okay? So here for this first one, Unit 1 Presentation Slides, if I come up here, you see that you have Unit 1 Presentation Slides here, okay? And so this is a description of what is in it. We keep on going here. The Microsoft Excel Solver XLAM file and setup instructions. So you see here that I also have that particular file in here as well. So setup info, see that? So if I keep going down here, let's say how to perform mean inverse topics that will be covered in Unit 1 for our course will be as follows. And of course, this is just giving you, hey, the basic things that are covered in there. Here, how to tell if multiple optimum solutions possible for an objective function. And of course, I have the name of that particular file, or files, I should say in this case. So here you see that that's the name of one of them here. And of course, you have another one here, okay? Shirts and skirts, LP example, okay? So the point here is that, again, whenever you see problems in IntelliPath that refer to the things that I'm talking about, these are the files that you need to go to. Okay, I'll do one more. So here you see a linear programming example, by hand selling bread and cake example, okay? So because most of you are going to see a problem in Unit 1 concerning, hey, how many loaves of bread and how many cakes do you have to bake and sell to be able to maximize profit? Well, I have an example of me working that problem out by hand here, and here's where it is, okay? So that is what these files are for, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into IntelliPath and show you how you would actually go in and use one of these files to help you answer the questions that you have available to you, okay? So I'm going to move this out for just a second here. And so I'm in Unit 1 right now. So I'm in IntelliPath in Unit 1, and I'm looking at a learning path here. And so what I'm going to do is click on decision modeling spreadsheets. And so I'm going to click and get into that particular lesson. And I'm going to pause until I get into the actual lesson just to make sure that I don't show anyone's grades, because in my view, I have to see some grades before I get there. All right, so I'm inside the decision modeling spreadsheets node lesson. So of course, most of you, when you go through this, you'll see, the introduction, and basically what the introduction is in the learning materials is trying to give you an overall summary of what's going on for that particular node. So of course, I'm just going to kind of click through this fast. This gives you some ideas of the types of functions that we'll use. Some more information. And then of course, here, this is an example of some decision model. This is one where you're doing selling price, fixed cost, basically a goal seek function type thing, okay? And so of course you have another one here with a break-even point. All right, and so here for this first example, what it's asking you to do is Excel provides a lot of capabilities for trying things out. One helpful function is your sum product function, okay? So here what they want you to do is they want you to plug in this data or enter in this data into Excel just as you see it, and then figure out what is going to be the value of this particular phrase here. So in other words, they're trying to see, do you understand how the sum product function works? So what I'm going to do for you right now is just actually do this problem so that you'll see kind of how this works. Now, I do not have a particular example in the zip files for this particular problem because the purpose of it is for you to actually do it. But I'm going to go through that process so that you can kind of see what's going on. All right, so I have my Excel file here, and I'm going to try to follow along with what they said. So I'm going to leave this particular column blank, but I'm going to start with B here and just type in these numbers. So I got 5.08, negative 7.424, and so on and so forth. So I'll just go ahead and type them all in right now. And all I'm doing is just typing in the numbers and hitting enter. Okay, I'm told to actually go to C and type in these numbers in this column. so I've typed in these numbers in columns B and C as I've been told. And so now it wants me to know what is the sum, what is the value of equal sum product B1 colon B4, C1 colon C4. Okay, so I'm actually going to do that now. So I'll come up here and make this a little bit bigger. And so just anywhere, and I'm just going to come here. Let's see. I'll actually do it here. So I'm just going to type in equal sum product and then here what it's asking for is some cells, and of course is asking for the cells B1 to B4. So it's asking me to come and copy these, and notice how when I copy, well, when I highlight those rather, we have B1 to B4. Then I need to do an equal sign, and then it asks me to do C1 to C4. Okay, and then I'm here, and then after that I hit enter, and we see that we get this answer. Notice that my answer choices here are either rounded to 1 or 2 decimal places. So what I want to do here is make sure that this particular cell, if I go to, and I'm right clicking, go to format the cell, and if I do numbers, it's just be number, and I want it to be rounded to 2 decimal places. So I have that, and notice that it's 15.66, which is the same as that is. So that will be my answer for that question. Okay. Now, one thing I do want to illuminate here is that what this particular question was trying to do is basically say, I want to do the following. I'm just going to click on this to kind of make my point. So when we do sum product, what this function is actually doing is it's saying, hey, I want to take this cell, multiply it times this cell, plus take this cell, multiply it times this cell, plus take this cell, multiply it times this cell, plus take this cell, multiply it times this cell, and then add all those answers up. Okay, so that is what this sum product function is actually doing. So, because if I was to come here and I'm just going to calculate this so that you can kind of see my point. If I was to do B1 times C1, and so that would be that, and I'm going to copy this particular cell and paste it, and when I do that, what you notice here is that if you click on these, see how I have B1 times C1 here, but in this one I have B2 times C2, and I was able to just copy and paste and do all that. If I take this and then notice that if I highlight all of these, notice that the sum that I have here is this 15.657 blah 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 blah, and of course that would round to 15.66. So essentially what the sum product function says is this times this, give me that answer, that times that, give me that answer, this times that, give me that answer, this times this, give me that answer, and then add all these up. And it does it all at once. Okay? And so that's an example of these questions where they're just asking you to do something. So you just put it together and you do it. Okay? All right, so let's move on. I'm going to go to another question here. All right, so this is another question that I wanted to address. And for this particular one, I wanted to show this one to you because I did actually have something in your zip files that will help you with this one. Okay. So this says Excel will let you compute with matrices, and it says use Excel function equal M inverse to find the inverse of the following. So basically, This is supposed to be representative of some matrix, which is a simple, math structure, and you're trying to find out what the inverse of it is. Now, personally, I don't know why they have this question in our course, but for some reason they feel like it's useful. So since I saw the question, and I was like, well, most people are probably not going to know what this is and how to use it. I wanted to make sure that everyone kind of had an idea about how to attack it. So let's go back to this file here, and what we want to do is pick the file that's going to have the information about doing inverses of matrices in it. Okay. All right. So to find this particular file that has this information in it, what I'm suggesting that you do, and I'm going to move this away for just a second, is to go to your email. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and double click on this. And so now that you have this, you want to try to do a search for the function M inverse. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is, let's see if I go here. So here I'm at the top. You can't see this, but I'm at the top, and I am going to where it says edit, and then it says find in this page. So I'm clicking on that, and what I'm going to do is type in equal M inverse. And of course it doesn't like that, so let me do that. And so notice that this says here I have performed M inverse. And if I go down, notice that this also says M inverse here. And notice that this description is under that particular file. In other words, Unit 1 IntelliPath various problems. So in this particular file name, you're going to find information on all these types of things. Okay. And of course, if you see here for question 1, I have it labeled question 1 on the actual worksheet, and I'll show you what that worksheet looks like here in just a second. But notice that I have something regarding to if functions and concatenate functions. Of course, the second worksheet is going to be about the matrix inverse function. This third worksheet in this file is going to be about how to do break-even analysis. You have one question about net present value. So in other words, it's got a lot of information here. So you just have to search for keywords to be able to figure out what it is that you need to know. So now that we know what file we're looking for, specifically for this one, let me go back. So we're looking for the Unit 1 IntelliPath examples. So we're going to find that, which is right here. Okay. So if I open that up, you'll see that this is the file for that. And notice, see, I have question 1, question 2, question 3. So I have all the information there. Of course, this is question 1, and you can kind of see how I've did a screenshot of the problem, and I've kind of modeled it, gave the answer for that particular question. Here is the one for the inverse. Okay, so this is the problem, and notice the numbers may be different, but the problem is still the same. And I've come here and I have basically set up everything. So I've got column 1, column 2, and I've actually calculated the inverse of this. Okay, and so here, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here so you can kind of read everything that I'm talking about here. So what I'm trying to communicate here is, if this is the problem and this is the setup for it, then to actually calculate the inverse of this matrix, I should have numbers in all of these cells here to kind of match these here. Okay, and so I'm telling you that this is how your inverse matrix should look if you've done it correctly. Okay. Now, if you did something wrong, which is the mistake that most people make, this is what it ends up looking like. Okay, meaning that you've only calculated the inverse of this matrix for one of its entries and not all of it. Okay. Now, here, what I've done to sort of help you out to say, all right, well, this is how you need to go about it. Of course, if your numbers aren't the same as the ones that are in the actual question in the telepath, you need to figure out, all right, well, how do I prevent this from happening and get it to look like this? Well, I have a video here for you that kind of tells you what you need to do. Okay. In addition to that, I also have steps here that you need to follow in order to make sure that you get this here. And all you have to do is essentially read what I have here and follow the steps. Okay. If that doesn't resonate with you, then of course you can watch the video and you can follow along with that in order to get this to work out the way that you need to. And of course, what I would suggest that you do is come down here, like somewhere in here, and you can try it out on your own by following these steps that I have here to see if you can get what I have up here. Okay. And so this hint that's here, you might need F2 and Shift Center, Control Shift Center. What that is for is if you have a IBM compatible computer, that's one of the things that you may have to do in some of these steps here to be able to prevent this from happening, to actually get it to look like this. Okay. So again, my point here is that you have things that are here that can help you get through these problems. Okay. And I just need you to understand how to actually go about using the information that I've given you in order to do that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do 2 more examples here just to kind of round it out. And this time I'm going to go into Unit 2. And so in Unit 2, I'm going to look at a linear programming example. And I'm also going to look at another example, in particular, one of the problems that you'll see in the marketing node. So I'm going to look at those 2 nodes, do an example so you can see how to search for the information for those topics. So before I do that, I want to actually showcase this particular file here because it does have a lot of information in it. Like I said before, if you had a question about using the concatenate or if function, then of course this is a worksheet in this particular file that will help you do that. Of course, this is the example of goal seek function, or how to use the goal seek function for modeling, let's say, break-even points. So I have the question posted here, have a model already set up. If you need to actually look at the formulas, then of course you can just go here to formulas and then click on show formulas, and you'll see the actual the actual formulas or numbers that are typed under the hood here. Once you get out of it, you need to do actual calculations, then you just click on show formulas again. So here, this is an example of doing net present value. And so, of course, your question, this was the actual question. And so the actual question says, hey, here's the situation, type in this information, and then, answer what they ask you to do here. So here you actually have this model here in formula form. Okay. And of course, 4A here is what this actually is if we turn off formula. So here, if I went like that, then you see that I end up having this model here. So we go back, you can see the formulas. So I separated it so that you had one where you saw the formulas on its own, and you had one where you can actually do the calculations. Okay. And so now that you have this model, you can actually use it to be able to answer the questions that are here. And of course, I have another model here because you have some questions that are asking you to compare some things. And so in this case, the difference in net present value. So I have that. And then of course, here for question 4B, it's actually asking you about the net present value difference. And of course, I have the model for that. All right, so question 5, of course, is another goal seek break-even point type question. Another example where we've switched it up a bit. And another example, again, where we switch it up a bit based upon the question. So again, the point I'm trying to get across here is that for a lot of these questions in IntelliPath, you have the information available to you to make it fairly easy for you to get through the problem. You just have to use what I'm giving you here. Okay. All right. So now what we'll do is go on to Unit 2 and look at a few examples there. All right. So I have moved on to Unit 2. And so in Unit 2, I have accessed the marketing node because we do have some problems that pertain to that. So of course, you start off just like how we did before, go to the introduction, and here's giving you information about situation where people are trying to do a marketing campaign, and they're using these four media to be or four avenues to be able to promote whatever it is they're trying to promote. So TV, radio, newspapers, and magazines. So of course they give you information about that. Here is all the constraints, well, the objective function with all the constraints. And this is what they tell you to do as far as modeling this particular problem. So they've given you all the information up here and they said, hey, if you want to know how to model this in Excel, you have this information right here. Now, the good thing is that they're going through this process and you can actually go and do this from scratch if you like. However, if you're kind of pressed for time, you can use what I have already given you, okay? And what I have given you is a way for you to get this without actually having to type everything in, okay? So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go back to that file that we had. In this time, we're going to go to Unit 2. So we go to Unit 2, of course. Here is the email that I have here for Unit 2. And of course, it's the same idea. You'll find the topic that you're looking for, see what you have. This time what I'm going to do is, instead of going to the email, I'm just going to go straight to where the files are. And if you notice here that I have a file here called Unit 2 Marketing Problems Examples with Responses. And so it's a copy. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and click on that. And it's showing up in my other window here, so I'm going to take it and move it. So this is what that file looks like, and I'll resize it here so I'll fit inside this nice window. And so as you can see here, I have several of these types of questions. And if you read this, you see that it looks like the kind of questions that we had in IntelliPath, as far as TV, radios, ads, and whatnot. So here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 different examples. And of course, in addition to the problem being stated, I am also trying to explain some things to you in these problems here. And so hopefully with the information that I have here, it will kind of guide you enough to be able to see what is going on with that problem. Okay. So of course we were here and you see how this model that's here looks very similar to what we have here. Okay. And so that's basically what I was meaning by you can actually type in all this stuff that IntelliPath is asking you to do in the learning material area, but you probably want to utilize what I've given you because it's going to help you actually answer some of the questions and avoid you having to do so much typing in to create your models. Okay. So anyway, I think with these examples, that should give you a good enough idea to understand how to use the files that are available to you. Again, don't get don't get overwhelmed by looking at the fact that it's so many files. As you go through each question, just say, hey, this question, the main focus of it is this topic, and try to search the email for those topics. And of course, as you start to work in IntelliPath a little bit more and go back and forth with those zip files, you will start to see that, yes, not every question is in there, but probably some of the ones that most students will have issues with will be the ones that I address in those zip files. And of course, the stuff that I have there will either be the actual question or be something very similar to that question. So either way, you'll be able to get through it relatively quickly. So anyway, I hope that this video helps to clear some of those things up as far as how to use the resources that I've given you. Again, I want to go ahead and mention here that you do want to watch these pre-recorded YouTube videos. If I were you, I would probably, of course, watch the live chats first, but then follow up with the pre-recorded YouTube video or videos, depending upon the unit, just to make sure that you've kind of covered everything that you needed to. Okay. Now, these videos are not going to cover every single topic that is in a particular unit, but after viewing them, you should have a basic idea about how to go about modeling those problems. And of course, the stuff that's not talked about is kind of the same flavor. Hey, here's this particular situation or concept. This is how we're going to model it. And of course, from there, you can kind of reuse some of the things that you've already had to create a model for a new problem. Okay. And again, I have a lot of models, so there shouldn't be too many problems that you actually have to model that I don't already have a model for. Of course, if you can't find one, then of course, by all means, email me, text me, whatever, so that I can help you locate that. But I don't want you trying to do most of these models from scratch. It's just really not the point. Of course, you saw an example how we use the sum product function. In those examples where it's just not much to type, yeah, you may want to do those from scratch. But of course, starting from Unit 2 onward, there shouldn't be too much that you have to model from scratch. All right. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Again, I hope that it was helpful. If there's anything that you think I missed or that I need to address a little bit more, of course, please email me or text me. Just let me know, hey, I wish you would have covered this, and I can make an edit to this video to try to address what you're saying. All right, take care.